Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Geographically? Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good?
Ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast as Alan moves his mic stand and squeaks away over there.
Sorry about that.
We are doing another... He did it again, almost to spite me. We are doing another 20-minute Scratching the Surface episode, and we're going to do it on the power of choice. I have a saying that I've said in several podcasts. There is the easy choice and the right choice. That it seems like life is set up in a way that sometimes you get tested and you have the right thing to do and then you have the easy thing to do. Usually they're not the same for whatever reason, but we want to talk about choices and how to make the right one.
The power of choice is today's theme for the Scratching the Surface episode.
Yes.
I have, as all of you know, my favorite book of all time, The Compound Effect. It's always on my person in my backpack. And I have an episode, a reading. It's the beginning of chapter 2. The name of the chapter is Choices. So I'm going to read this quickly because I think it's a good opener. So, we all come into this world the same, naked, scared, and ignorant. After that grand entrance, the life we end up with is simply an accumulation of all the choices we make. Our choices can be our best friend or our worst enemy. They can deliver us to our goals or send us orbiting into a galaxy far, far away. Think about it. Everything in your life exists because you first made a choice about something. Choices are at the root of every one of your results. Each choice starts a behavior that over time becomes a habit. Choose poorly and you just might find yourself back at the drawing board, forced to make a new, often harder choice. Don't choose at all, and you've made the choice to be the passive receiver of whatever comes your way. In essence, you make your choices, and then your choices make you. Every decision, no matter how slight, alters the trajectory of your life, whether or not to go to college, whom to marry, to have that last drink before you drive, to indulge in gossip or stay silent, to make one more prospecting call or call it a day, to say I love you or not. Every choice has an impact on the compound effect of your life. Last paragraph. This chapter is about becoming aware, in other words, hyperconscious, of and making choices that support the expansion of your life. Sounds complicated, but you'll be amazed by its simplicity. No longer will 99% of your choices be unconscious. No more will most of your daily routines and traditions come as a reaction to your programming. You'll ask yourself and be able to answer, how many of my behaviors have I not voted on? What am I doing that I didn't consciously choose to do, yet continue to do every day?
So hopefully the microphone didn't pick me up laughing the whole time you were reading that, because I just saw that my fly is unzipped and I was trying to zip it up. If you ever try to zip your fly while sitting down, it is nearly impossible. So I just want to give the listeners that before I dive into this serious segment. So how many times have you told somebody I get up at 4:30 for 3 and they always say, oh, I can't do that?
Oh, pretty much every time I've said it.
Pretty much every time.
Yeah.
You could, though. Anybody could.
Yeah.
The thing is, okay, you really have to break it down in your mind that I have an option to do something different than I am doing now.
Yes.
You always do.
Always.
You always do. It's just A, do you want to deal with the repercussions of that choice? Or B, have you set yourself up to actually make that choice, right? So if I said to you, Alan, I want to get up at 4:30 tomorrow, what do I do? What would you say?
I would say try your best to get to bed as early as possible and set an alarm with your phone or whatever it is across the room so you have to get out of bed.
Yeah, and I think that how do you, we're going to go deep here.
Yeah.
How do you haven't always been able to get up super early, super successfully. It's a habit now, but it hasn't always been, right?
Yeah, totally.
So on those, it's winter now, almost in New England. It feels like it's winter now.
Yep.
For those who are in New England, you know that it's getting cold quickly.
Very quickly.
And when that alarm goes off at 4:30 in the morning, it is awfully cold in my room.
Yes.
So how do, in that moment of your mind, we always say the machine. The machine's telling you, Alan, you can lay down for another half hour. Alan, you don't have to get up early today. You'll get up early tomorrow. How do we make the choice to tell the machine to shut up?
Ooh, so that's an awesome question. So I want to tell, there's a quick analogy. Kevin will like this.
Sure, I love them.
So I live on a big pond, small lake, and you and I bass fish.
Yes.
We bass fished all summer. It's unfortunate we can't do that as much now. But fish are what they call an opportunistic hunter. In other words, if you have a lure on your line that is not big enough, a big bass will instantaneously decide whether or not it is worth the energy it will expend to eat the lure. So if you have a small lure that's very low amount of calories, a low amount of energy, if a huge bass it'll swim right by it because it knows intrinsically that the amount of energy it will gain from eating that lure will not be worth the amount it will expend to actually get it, right? And so that's an evolutionary thing that we're also wired to. So you kind of have to picture a scale with two plates on either end. So like there's a pole in the middle and there's two plates on either end. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. A Libra scale, I believe that's
what
called.
is it called?
A Libra scale?
Okay, a
think.
Libra scale.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that. But I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. And so you have act or not to act. So for your example, waking up at 4:30 when your alarm goes off, you have to, our brains immediately do a cost value analysis on, in other words, if you don't have a big enough reason, like for example, we always talk about this. If you were going to go see the love of your life and potentially have sex, passion, and intimacy, you'd get right out of bed.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But if you're going to go to the gym, then maybe you won't want to get out of bed. It's because you are not valuing the thing. You don't have a strong enough reason, why power, to actually tip that scale.
Beautiful. So, and I just use 4:30 as an example. If you are getting up at 7 and you're struggling and you're hitting snooze, the reason I think that I go to waking up early or waking up in general is because it's the first part of your day where you can prove to yourself that you have self-discipline. If your alarm goes off, you hit snooze 5 times, I get subconsciously or consciously, when you wake up, you are going to feel less disciplined. At least in my case.
Same here. 100%.
Maybe if you're listening, it doesn't happen to you, but you should try to build in that first layer of discipline because that is going to set your day up for success.
I think one of the reasons that people don't wake up early, Kevin, and one of the benefits that we have to interviewing such amazing guests on this podcast is we're people say knowledge isn't power, and I understand why they say that. But if you picture that scale again, the amount of reasons that you have to actually do a positive habit get increased the more knowledge and awareness you have. So this is the hyper-conscious podcast. So the more hyper-conscious you become of the compound effect of good habits over time, the more likely you're not willing to fucking hit snooze.
Yeah.
Right? So if you look at all the successful people we've interviewed on this podcast and all the wonderful things that they've been able to create in their lives and live life on their own terms and become wealthy and all this stuff, they all wake up early, right? They all have a journal. They all read books, right? So we have stronger reasons to do these things than most people because some people are just not aware that these things matter.
And also, you and I, and this is an interesting point, you and I also have the freedom and the, I guess, responsibility to wake up when we choose.
Yeah.
And it's strange, man, because, and this came to me today, before we even knew we were doing the episode this way. This came to me today. When I was in a dusty-ass New Jersey hotel, getting up at any time. It could have been 10 in the morning for a 2:30 shift. It could have been 5 in the morning for a 7 o'clock shift. I always felt unbelievably tired, unbelievably unmotivated. And there was almost this weird fog over me when I would get up, no matter what, almost, right? That doesn't happen anymore. I was excited, man. My alarm went off at 4:30 today, and I was excited to get up because I won't lie, and it's been a couple days since I've done my morning routine.
Yeah.
I usually do a different morning routine called sleeping on the weekend, and I didn't get up for the gym yesterday. Yesterday was an off day, so I slept until 7:30 or 8. But I woke up genuinely excited to get my day started, and that is a different thing for me because for a long time it was just it was a necessity versus desire. I didn't get up because I desired it. I got up because it was necessary.
Yeah.
And now it's like you have been a strong proponent of getting up early, and that rubbed off on me. Remember, towards the tail end of my work before I left, I started getting up when I was working in town. I would get up at 5 and work out with you.
Yeah.
And that has made a huge change in my life, getting up early.
Let's bring it real right now. So I remember you feeling like you were going to miss out. So this is almost like a benefit of FOMO a little. So when you were working, I remember I would be doing my daily routine. You know, you were aware of the compound effect and the compound effect of good choices over time. And when you were constantly taken away to go to work and like travel and stuff, you felt like you were missing out on the physical gains, the mental gains, the ability to podcast, the ability to do the things you love. Like,
I was.
And there was scratching the surface episodes of you basically talking about how much it sucks to keep being taken away from things you want to do.
Yeah.
Also, Matt, when he went to Boston and all those speakers talked about the morning, the Miracle Morning. So Ryan Snow spoke on the Miracle Morning, and every single speaker was talking about how they get up early. Again, common patterns among successful people. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. That was Benjamin Franklin. Benny Franks. I love Benjamin Franklin. I read him a lot. But the thing is Matt, after that seminar, immediately woke up, and we worked out with him this morning at what time?
6
a.m.
Yep.
And so he wasn't convinced before either. We at one point in time, all of us weren't convinced of waking up early.
Right.
So let's talk about the word can't, because this word gets thrown around so much. They're like, "Oh, I can't track my calories." What do you mean you can't? You never have. And by the way, if you knew how stupidly easy it is to lose weight when you actually do become aware of what energy is in what food, you would actually want to track calories. I remember when I first started, and my fitness coach, Nate Smithson, Big Nate, shout out to you, brother.
Big Nate. Congrats on the new place, dog. Looks awesome.
Right. It does look amazing, right? Oh, my goodness. And he told me, start tracking so that you'll become aware of what's in what foods. I remember I thought that was fucking crazy. What do you mean track everything I eat? Now, I honestly think it's crazy not to at least be somewhat aware of what your caloric intake is, because otherwise you have no idea whether you're building muscle or burning fat.
It really does. It's in a strange way, and it's very hard for... It was really hard for me for a while to just... It's black or white. You either do it or you don't do it. And I've gotten a lot of flack from that. In conversations where people have been like, oh, so I'll walk by like this stand that has donuts, and it's like... I just get like pulled towards the donuts. How do I not eat them? And I just say, you don't eat them. You just don't.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're going to regret it later. You need to make the choice in the moment. And when your alarm goes off and everything in your mind is saying, yo, it's fine. You can skip your workout today. Yeah, you can. And it's probably not going to kill you. But it's your job as a necessity. It's your job. This is a direct result of making these choices. You're going to be a better person.
Yeah.
You're going to be a better version of yourself.
And you're going to feel good about yourself.
Yeah. And I understand. I said this in a post or another podcast. Who knows? That it doesn't seem like there's a lot of self-love in the world right now.
Oh,
but
said that too. That was it recently. Anthony Trucks. You wanted his take on self-discipline and self-love.
I feel like there's not a lot of self-love, but there's also far less self-discipline. And I know that I feel like crap when I don't do the things I say I'm going to do. And then I make excuses. We're all really, really good at making excuses. But when your ultimate goal is to be the most successful in your field, then you'll start making excuses to do the things that you know you should do.
Yeah. So you'll find reasons to do it.
Yeah.
Rather than not to do
I
it.
try to make excuses not to do to not do them.
So we're having And,
Right.
and you want to hold yourself accountable
Yes.
because you know you want
I don't want to let myself down.
I believe self-esteem and self-discipline are very connected.
I agree.
The more self-discipline you have, the more self-esteem you're going to build. Anthony Trucks talked about how, if you think about anyone you admire right now, why do you admire them? There's something about them that you respect. And most likely underneath that is some self-discipline, something they overcame, something they became, something amazing that they do or are, right? And what if you felt that way about yourself? What if you respected yourself so much that you don't want to let yourself down? And don't get me wrong, there's going to be times when you do let yourself down. And this is one of the difficulties of having huge goals. Because when you have huge goals and then you let yourself down, it's going to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But that pain is going to keep you accountable, And I think that's super, super important. And by the way, the thing that I always keep bringing up is that post I said, if you had a friend who broke as many promises to you as you've broken to yourself, how much would you value that friendship? But it's a vicious cycle because if you break promises to yourself, you value yourself less, you respect yourself less, what are the chances you're going to suddenly start making promises to yourself? You're going to be afraid to set a goal because you don't want to be let down again. It's a downward cycle. Cycle. Oh my goodness. Cycle or an upward cycle. So you got to start really small. I always say this, do the little things that make a big difference. If you knew the real downside of your bad habits, you wouldn't do them anymore.
Well, you got to. I think that being hyper-conscious, I can't even say the word. We did just do a super deep podcast with Terrence McMahon right before this, so in both of our defenses, we are a little fried here. So part of being hyper-conscious is being willing to dig into the stuff that doesn't feel so good and turn that stuff over and realize, okay, let's be hyper-conscious. Okay, today I got up at 4:30. Tomorrow I get up at 7. Say that happens.
Yep.
I just lost
2.5
hours of my day. What did I do today right off the bat? I threw on High Performance Habits. Shout out to Brendan Burchard.
Ah, yes.
And then I watched
Jarek Robbins.
yes. I watched his TED Talk.
Yep.
And then I watched his father, Tony Robbins, do a speech.
On Rapport.
While I was drinking my pre-workout, eating my pre-workout meal, doing a little mobility. Tomorrow, I get up at 7.
What a great start to a day.
I don't do any of that, most likely. If I'm getting up at 7, I'm already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, because
I'm
you and
already
Matt go to the
behind.
gym so you would miss the gym.
I would miss the gym, and then it would throw off my entire sequence of events.
The whole day.
But the thing is, I think a lot of people, they worry about that extra 2 hours of sleep or that extra 2.5 hours of sleep. But it's not just the extra 2 hours of sleep. It's what you're losing in that 2 hours that you're awake.
The opportunity cost.
I think that I want to bring this to the listeners from the standpoint of you have this excuse loop that you tell yourself. I think most humans do.
We all do in certain areas.
Yes.
I do. I can tell you for sure on certain things.
And and I'm not accusing. I don't want you guys
just
to think
so
I'm
you guys
accusing
all know, Kevin and I are just as guilty of
Absolutely.
this in just different areas.
Absolutely.
And by the way, we're talking about the areas that we're really good at.
Yes.
So we should probably talk about some areas we suck at after this.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. Doing stuff doing the unknown.
Yeah. So the website.
The website took
on
me
that for
2 months.
Yeah.
And you know what it took me when I actually did it? 25 minutes.
Yeah.
25
And
minutes.
there we go. So let's dig into that.
Procrastination is a thing and then I justify it. It's a thing I deal with, and then I justify it with, well, it doesn't need to get done today. What's the difference? What does it matter if it doesn't get done till tomorrow or next week? Or then it's like, oh, Alan hasn't sent me the bio yet.
That is my fault.
But it's not an excuse, Alan.
Yeah.
I can still put the website up.
Which you did.
Which I did.
Because I still haven't gotten you the bio or the photos.
But so I think that was a great distinction to make. That look, I'm not calling
we're
anybody
guilty
out.
of this too.
Yeah, I am as guilty as any of this.
Yeah,
with any of this.
And that's why
as
we're
you are.
fired up about it.
Right.
We're trying to get ourselves to take action.
Yeah, but I can tell you what works for me. I don't want to let myself down.
Yeah.
The whole counting, the Mel Robbins, counting backwards from 10. I know she has the 5-second rule.
Yeah, 5
but
second.
But counting backwards from 10 in the shower, when I know I'm just being a asshole, using more water than I need because I'm just in there enjoying the heat, I've never once failed.
No.
Because I won't let myself down in that regard. When you start doing those things, you have to make promises to yourself and you have to keep them. So what is your example? If you're listening right now, what is your example? What is the thing that maybe it's the alarm. Maybe the alarm goes off and you start telling yourself the story of, well, I'll use the extra 2 hours of sleep and then I'll get up tomorrow. Maybe sometimes that's necessary. Okay. But not if it's every day.
Yeah.
What if it's, I'll start my diet at New Year's? Why are you waiting to New Year's?
Yeah.
What's stopping you from doing it now? Maybe there is something going on that makes it more difficult. But sometimes the right choice is the more difficult choice. And that's what we're trying to say. Are you in a relationship you should get out of, but it's going to get messy? You're going to hurt the person, and you're going to be lonely, but you shouldn't be with them. It's easier to stay with them than it is to break it off. Easy versus right. That's what I'm talking about when I say make the right choice, not the easy one.
To bring that exactly what Kevin just said, there's two choices in front of you. There's the easy road and there's the right road. And the right road is basically the one that makes you better, right?
Yeah.
Brian Tracy says this. We are going to do one of two things. We're going to do what is fun and easy, or we are going to do what is hard and necessary. And all of this is predicated on the goal.
Yeah.
So your journey is filled with choices. And I always come back to this. So you're going to have a million different crossroads every single day. To go to the gym or not to go to the gym. To wake up early or not wake up early. To read this book or not read this book. To do this podcast or not do this podcast. And all of those choices are going to be entirely predicated on whatever your intention, your goal, your end game goal, your true north, your purpose is. So if you find yourself drifting around, just kind of chasing pleasure at the expense of fulfillment, it's most likely because you don't have a clear enough vision for the future. Because when you have a really clear vision of what you really desire in your heart, all of a sudden you start holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. I think it's super important that you said that, because if you said to me, I want to get up tomorrow at 4:30 to play Xbox, it's like you're most likely not going to get up at 4:30 to play Xbox, because Xbox is going to be there at 9 o'clock when you roll out of bed.
Interesting. Yeah.
I want to get up early because I want to get the most amount of stuff I can get done in a day, because I know the more I get done, the compound effect of that is over and over and over, and that expands over a year, over 2 years. Alan just had a moment.
I did. This is one more thing I want to say, too, because that was an excellent point. Most people, I forget where I read this. I wish I knew. I think it might have been in The Power of Habit.
That's what I wake up to, by the way.
That's the... Really?
Yeah.
It's soft as shit.
What do you mean?
It's soft.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I wake up to Bring Me Back to Life by...
Evanescence?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, maybe it's
That's a jam. Evanescence and 12 Stones.
Yes.
Yes.
It was in one of the movies.
Sure.
Anyways, this is really important. So, and this is the last thing I'll say before I end with we end. A lot of us, I always say this, a lot of us aren't doing the small things that make a big difference long enough to see the reward, so we don't know what we're missing out on. Until you get around someone who does. I'll give you an example. Nate Smithson. He didn't drink for all of 2013. When I met Nate, it was 2015 or 2016, I think. And at that time, alcohol was a big part of my life. I would party a lot with it. Yeah, so there's that. I remember thinking to myself, like, Nate is in the best shape of any human I've ever seen in person that's natural. So I remember I wanted that. I wanted to be in ridiculously good shape. By the way, get around people who have things you want. They're going to fuel your fire and your Y power. But I remember connecting the dots and going, wait a minute, you didn't drink for all of 2013? He's like, yeah, man, not at all. Like, booze is terrible for your body. And I thought to myself, like, he looks like he does, and I look like I do. And I know that booze is a factor. So I had never not drank long enough to see how great it was to not drink. The longest I had ever gone was 3 months, and that was years and years before that. So I had forgotten the benefits. I just went 414 days.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. I actually, this is the first you're hearing of it, but I did drink at Geekus' wedding.
Oh.
Yeah. That's a whole thing.
Interesting.
It's another episode.
Oh, interesting.
But I'm done. I'm not, like, it's not going to be a thing. It's not going to be, I really don't want to drink. So anyways, I went 414 days. So now I've locked in on how great it was not to drink. Whereas if I had only done it for like 2 weeks, I would have never really seen the physical fitness benefits enough to go, oh, wow. And now, by the way, actually, this is perfect. I drank at Geekus' wedding. I paid for that for a full fucking week. My body couldn't function at the same level. I couldn't train at the same intensity. My shoulders hurt more. I was dehydrated. My sleep schedule was fucked, right? So that's the thing. Try a positive habit long enough to where you actually get the reward. Bad habits are rewarded quickly. Like if I drank, you get the fun right away.
Right away.
But it's not till the next morning when you're working out going, I'm so glad I didn't drink last night. That's just one example. All good habits are hard to create and easy to break. All bad habits are easy to create and hard to break. Remember that.
Yeah, I think that's super important. If you're listening, obviously we jumped off the rails like we always do. We were kind of all over the place, but that's because it's not as simple as you just make the choice. You have to have a reason behind your choice. And the stronger your reason, the more likely you will be to make the right choice. So if you're having that talk with yourself every morning of, I can't get out of bed. First of all, yes, you can.
Yes.
You can.
100%.
But
you
why
don't
don't
have a strong enough reason.
give yourself a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself a reason. Oh, if I get out of bed for 30 days straight on time, I get to buy myself this dress. Awesome.
Nice.
Cool. That's a great reason.
Kevin's buying a dress.
I'm buying a dress and these heels. But I want you guys to kind of dig deep into what are the things that I should be making better choices with? Why am I not making better choices? And how can I start to? That's what all this is.
Yeah. If it doesn't make you healthier, wealthier, or more in love, don't do it.
There you go. Unless you got to go to work and pay the bills.
That's wealthier.
Well, wealth is a...
I meant financially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got to call you out.
The last quote that I have is self-discipline is the ability to consistently do what must be done to achieve your goal, regardless of whether or not you want to do it.
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, you can choose to do whatever it is you want, but again, you have to dig into that beautiful, deep mind of yours and figure out why you're doing what you're doing. If what you're doing is not getting you the results you want, make the choice to discover how to get those results and then just start doing it. I know it's not as simple as it sounds, but again, nothing is simple. You just got to be willing to put in the work in a positive manner.
And you have to be willing to fail forward.
Yes.
7 o'clock a.m. is going to seem hard until you hit it long enough, and then eventually 6 a.m. will seem hard, and then 5 a.m. will seem hard.
Yes.
At one point, it was all difficult. Now 4 a.m. is fairly regular,
Yeah.
but I still fail forward.
But I think it's important to set a goal. Again, if you set a goal for 5 and you get up at 5:30, that's still better than you getting up at 7.
Exactly.
So give yourself a little bit of grace on that, but don't make it a habit and take advantage of the fact that, well, I'm human. Yes, you are.
Yep.
Yes, you are. But you can also set higher standards for yourself and push. Get up at 5:25 the next day.
Yep.
Get up at 5:20. Get up at 5:15. Progress. We're looking for progress, not excuses. Ladies and gentlemen, we just scratched the surface.
We just scratched the surface.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.